best for themselves, ultimately our society improves. We studied this idea of social Darwinism. We saw that really it's this notion that if we are going to allow individuals to not compete, we're going to somehow avoid competition, they're not going to improve. And if they don't improve, how can our society improve? Fair enough? So, all these questions now about, how can we lead a good life? How can we make sure that we're doing the right thing? If we accept property rights, if we let everybody simply do with their own property what's best for that person, all of us benefit. The society ultimately benefits. Some more than others, fair enough, but ultimately we all benefit. What do you think? Adi?
Why is a monopoly wrong in that case? I mean, if that's truly the case, then a monopoly should go bankrupt quite quickly. They're avoiding competition.
What do you think about that? Dave?
Monopolies often get toppled when we have a bunch of dissatisfied people on it, and they will do something to change it.
So the monopoly will respond, is what Dave's argument is that that monopoly is rational. It wants to survive. When it feels threatened by whatever, Dave's idea or any idea, it adjusts and it survives. All right, Bill, I can see you're winding up for something here. Are you winding up or not?
There's a lot of evidence that once someone becomes successful, then they try and change the rules and preserve it, whether or not the monopoly example is perfect, because if there is no competition, then there is no force improving them. I mean, there's kind of a barrier to them being toppled. In theory, if the market is in fact free, this works, but it isn't free. It isn't inherently flawed in places. No one's produced perfectly yet, so it's impossible.
That's fair. I want to play the role of the free market economist for the first half of class today. We'll take a break and then we'll come back and challenge these ideas. But even if it's not perfect, still we're better off following these assumptions. Better off to follow these assumptions than the alternative assumptions. Because ultimately we'll get there maybe with some pain, maybe with some cost, and probably the price that we pay will not be spread evenly. But ultimately we'll get there because of the reality of competition. Look, I've showed it to you in economic terms, I've showed it to you mathematically, and I've showed it to you biologically. Whether you're an economist, a mathematician, or a biologist, we all end up with the same answer. If you let individuals do what they want with their own property, attend simply to their own self-interest, ultimately the collective benefits, like the bird who can't run very fast, who can't fly, but learns to run very fast. How? How does he learn to run very fast? By outrunning his slower friend. As long as he can outrun his slower friend, he'll survive, and his offspring will be the faster ones, and they'll have to outrun their slower friends. And ultimately, this bird is going to be pretty darn fast at some point. And so, as a species, we're going to do pretty well. We see it all over. Are you feeling seduced yet? Josh?
I'm not sure if I'm 100% there on my thought process, but it seems very utilitarian almost. That
It is.
It's allowing many to fail for that one instance of progress to then evolve into the future of how things are done.
That is evolution. That is evolution.
As a society, are we prepared to accept that?
That's a very good question. Now, whether we're prepared to accept it or not, at least acknowledge that the ones who say that we should accept it are right, because they're able to show it. That if the individuals are allowed to progress, ultimately we all succeed. Whether it's socially acceptable is another question altogether for the politicians or whoever. But at least accept what is evident. Adit?
Okay, well then, if we consider something like the 2008 economic crisis, where all stocks were going down,
Right.
for the sake of the economy, investors should have been investing back into the economy, but instead they were saving their money, so that they're still serving their self-interest, but that's not benefiting anyone.
Right.
So how does that work in a concept
Well,
like that?
anybody want to try to answer that one?
So that's why it makes me say that I think capitalism is done good, but I think capitalists are not good. So why I would say that is the biggest gray area in this is self-interest. How do we define and limit self-interest?
True.
So that's the key thing here.
Okay.
The
How do we
loophole is this entire
restrainers?
ideology, the entire ideology is the self-interest.
Right.
How far is your self-interest defined? If it gets too far, then I think the consequences are detrimental, but otherwise, I think the concept is good.
Let me take your thought, and again, I'm going to be a free market economist for a second. Capitalists are not good. All right. I'll acknowledge that capitalists are greedy and selfish. And then I will go on to say, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Because the greedy, selfish, Henry Ford and Steve Jobs and, whatever, those greedy, selfish people made this a better world. That's what the free market economist is going to say.
And while we trip over the ramifications,
Well, I'm enjoying the ramifications of Steve Jobs right now. Or at least somebody like Steve Jobs. So, get to it.
How about the greedy self-interest of drug dealers?
Yeah.
Who can make more money doing something like that
Yeah.
than they can getting a legitimate job.
Yeah. Well, how would you answer that? That's a good point. Does somebody want to answer that? Adit?
I didn't get
I
that.
think a distinction needs to be made between self-interest and greed.
Okay.
Because, let's say Thomas Edison, he may not have created the light bulb to gain economic profit. He may have done it to, help the community. That still gives him a good feeling inside. So that's still self-interest, not necessarily greed.
All right. Well, I guess I see the difference if I'm a friend of the guy, but if I'm a customer buying a light bulb, I guess I don't know if I see the difference.
Right, but we're talking about people pursuing their own self-interest. So
Right.
from that standpoint, I guess.
All right. But let's not lose Kitrin's question, because she raised a good point. So what about these drug dealers who are lining their pockets and killing kids while they're doing it? What do you think about that, Julia?
Most of the drug dealers are doing it because they are the disenfranchised. They did not have the opportunity to go to school. They did not have the opportunity to live the life that most people in this room are living. And thus, why would you work at McDonald's for $7.25 an hour when you've got 3 kids at home, when you can sell pot for, I have no idea how much they make, say 5-6 times that,
Bill, how much do they make? I'm just kidding. I think about it. All right, fair enough, you're right.